Hello, my name is Kevin. I am going to tell you about my journey through bowel cancer, chemotherapy and having a stoma. In May 2018, I was sent a letter about having a scope test. At first, I wasn't going to have it done. I didn't think there was anything wrong, and like most of us, thought I was too busy. My family convinced me to go and take the test. I'm glad they did. I went into hospital where I had a routine test, the result of which found some polyps. After a couple of weeks, I had a call from the hospital to say they wanted to see me. I was very nervous and headed to hospital. As I walked in, there was a lot of nurses around. They told me about the bad news. I had stage 2 bowel cancer. Cancer, the word no one likes to hear. I was diagnosed with cancer on the 19th of June 2018. My life changed. Millions of thoughts raced through my mind. And then suddenly I thought of my grandchildren and the rest of my family and friends. I turned to the nurse and said, "I'm in your hands now," before they then told me what was going to happen. There was a lot of things to take in during a short period of time, but I remember my cancer nurse team was fantastic. I was seen by Mr. Francis. He explained about the operation I needed and the possibility of needing chemo and a stoma bag. Yes, I was feeling very nervous, but feeling positive as well. I kept telling myself I'm going to get through this. Things started to move fast. I had a lot of blood tests, an MRI scan, CT scans, 2 colonoscopies before seeing my consultant, Mr. Dalton. He told me what he was going to do. It was hard to remember and take in all the information. He told me he was going to remove a part of my bowel, which would mean I would need a stoma bag and also have a course of chemotherapy. I thought to myself, bloody hell, I'm having a lot. My operation was on the 29th of August 2018. The next day, Mr. Dalton came in and said the procedure had gone very well. I felt good and relieved. And I then got to know my stoma nurses who were very helpful. It wasn't easy at first to change my stoma bag. I found it frustrating and it started to get me down. After 4 days in hospital, Mr. Dalton said I could go home if I had got the hang of changing the stoma. I was still having trouble. I thought to myself, I'm going to do this. I want to go home. I stayed up all night to make sure I mastered it, and I did. I was discharged from hospital on the 3rd of September 2018 with a stoma bag. The type of stoma bag I had was a loop elastoma. You must excuse me if I didn't pronounce that right. When the stoma is fitted, you need to be careful which food you eat in order to ensure you don't get blocked. This changed my diet, however. I did soon get used to what I could eat and couldn't have. Before starting my chemo, I had a PICC line inserted into my arm and fed into my body, which would allow the chemo to be pumped into me. I started my chemo on the 31st of October 2018. I had to have 12 sessions of chemo over 6 months. I was worried, but just kept telling myself, I can do this. This will make me better, and I thought of my family and friends. I didn't let it get me down. I spent 3 hours in hospital having chemo pumped into me. Before going home, I had to wear a pump for the next 48 hours, which would pump more chemo into me. As part of my chemo, I had to take a course of steroid tablets during these 48 hours. These kept me awake much of the 48 hours before the combination of tablets wearing off and the chemo treatment taking effect and making me extremely tired over the weekend, sleeping through most of it. I did manage to work through my chemo. I stayed positive most of the time, but I had bad days. There were days where I just wanted to be left on my own and shut people out. I was lucky I didn't get too many side effects with my chemo. In the early days after having a session of chemo, my sense of taste was altered. For example, drinking lime and soda would often taste of milk. I started getting tingling in my fingers and toes, and they would get very cold. The worst side effects I suffered was towards the end, where I started to get painful ulcers in my mouth On the 3rd of April 2019, I had the last chemo session and the PICC line removed. Still to this day, only side effects I know have is the tingling and the coldness of my fingers and toes. After the chemo was finished, I was put on the waiting list to have the stoma reversed. Before this happened, I needed to have more tests to see if this could happen. By this point, I lived with the stoma for so long, I didn't think about keeping it, more because I was nervous of having another op. However, with already going through everything, I thought, what is one more procedure? The test came back and was decided I could have the reversal. In September 2019, I had the operation to reverse the stoma. It did take a long time to get back to normal. It was just over a year from having the first op and having the stoma reversed. I am now having regular blood tests, CT scans, colonoscopies. I am going to end by saying a big thank you to all the staff at Yeovil District Hospital, my family, friends, work colleagues at Wincan't Print, the management, and everyone who helped me through it. It wasn't easy for me to go through this, but everyone helped me come through this. Thank you all very much. A few things I'd like to leave you with, what helped me got through this cancer, is stay positive, go to the end, talk about it. Let alone I didn't want to talk about it all the time, but I did find it a lot better to talk about it. And if people give you banter, give it back to them, because that was really, really good. And it helped me through it. And I did have a lot of banter. Most of all, keep a lookout for the signs and symptoms. If you have any trouble and you don't feel well, get it checked.